help us break down the Trump indictment, we're joined by former federal prosecutor Mitchell Epner. Mr. Epner, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Nick.
Absolutely. I need you to help us weed through all of this because there's a lot happening, and I want to make sure that we're clear for viewers who may not be following every inch of this. The charges remain sealed. From what you know about this case, do you have any idea what the charges could be that Mr. Trump could actually face?
Well, Mr. Trump's attorney went on the media last night and said that one of the charges was an Espionage Act charge, and that's the most serious one. And the other charges are obstruction of justice, making false statements to law enforcement, and possibly one conspiracy charge. And the Espionage Act charge is extraordinarily serious and something that puts the former president in real danger of spending a long period of time in jail.
Mr. Ebner, break that down for me. What does that mean when we say espionage charge? Because it doesn't necessarily mean he was selling secrets, correct?
Correct. So I'm going to read the relevant statute. It's section 793D for people following along at home. And it says, whoever lawfully having possession of any document relating to the national defense, which information the possessor has reason to believe could be used to the injury of the United States or to the advantage of any foreign nation, willfully retains the same and fails to deliver it on demand to the officer or employee of the United States entitled to receive it, is guilty. So just breaking that down, it doesn't depend upon classification because the Espionage Act came long before there was a classification system. It just has to relate to the national defense, and it has to be something that Trump had reason to believe could be used to the injury of the United States or to the advantage of any foreign nation, and he has to have willfully retained it after being demanded to return it. And based upon what Trump has publicly admitted to, it seems as if there is a very compelling case on that charge.
I have to believe that this news of this indictment is troubling for so many Americans because I don't think any American wants to see a former president indicted on federal charges. Mr. Trump also went on Truth Social last night, his social media platform, talking about his expectation to appear in court on Tuesday. What should we expect when the former president appears in federal court next week?
So when he appears, that will be for something called an arraignment. At the arraignment, the only thing I expect he would say is the words "not guilty" when asked how he pleads. There will be bail set. There may be a schedule set for when this case will be brought to trial. And prior to the arraignment, we will actually get public disclosure of the indictment.
Now, Mr. Ebner, why was Mr. Trump indicted in Florida instead of Washington, D.C.?
So this is a very good question, and I'm glad you touched on it, Nick. The charge that I expect that he is going to face under the Espionage Act was not initially removing the documents from D.C., but rather holding on to them when the National Archivist demanded their return. And that was something that he did while he was at Mar-a-Lago. So that is why the case is being brought in Florida, because under the Constitution, the charge has to be pursued in the venue, the district, where the crime was committed.
Mr. Ebner, I've got so many questions for you. A couple more I do need to ask you. If you were Trump's lawyer, how would you be advising him right now?
Well, I would advise him to shut up, but I'm positive he would not take that advice.
Don't make me laugh, Mr. Ebner. You would advise him not to speak out, but Mr. Trump does believe that his getting in front of this, I have to believe, works to his advantage because we have not heard from the special prosecutor since you mentioned that. The special prosecutor may or may not reveal what the actual charges are on Tuesday, correct?
No, he will reveal. He has to. The indictment has to be unsealed. What we may or may not learn are what are the particular documents that former President Trump refused to return, because by definition, those are national security documents. And there is going to be a real tension between revealing those documents to the public and a fair public trial, because they're secrets. They are, by definition, their revelation is dangerous to the United States.
Gotcha. So to be clear, we will know what the charges are, but we may not know all the details connected to those charges, particularly the information pertained within those documents.
Correct.
And is
Yes.
it possible that even with all of this, a trial possibly, none of this would happen before the 2024 election? How would this indictment affect the timeline?
Well, I'm not sure about that at all.
Oh, okay. Talk to me about that, Mr. Ebner.
So under the Speedy Trial Act, the case has to be brought within 70 days of indictment unless almost always happens, unless there are motions or other things that slow it down. I would expect that the special counsel's office will do everything they can to move this case forward as quickly as possible. We will see who the judge will be. We don't know yet. If the judge wants to move this case forward, it will get tried before the 2024 election.
Wow, Mr. Ebner, last question for you. I have like 60 seconds. How will this indictment affect the timeline of the criminal case against him with the DA in Manhattan?
So that case is not moving quickly. It is not, the next hearing in that is not scheduled until December. And my expectation is that that case will be fit in around the edges of when this case moves forward.
Wow. Mitchell Ebner, a federal prosecutor, thank you so much for joining us this morning, helping us break that down.
Thank you for having me, Nick. I really appreciate it.
I have reason to believe we're going to be asking you back again a few more times next week as well. Mitchell Ebner, thank you so much. Have a good day. We will